Most people believe that the reason they can't lose weight comes down to one simple thing: calories. Eat less, move more, and you'll burn fat. That's the message we've been taught for decades. But let me ask you a question. If that formula actually worked, then why are so many people still struggling with their weight, even when they're eating less and exercising more? Why do people continue to gain belly fat despite counting every calorie, despite cutting their portions in half, despite hours of cardio? The answer lies in a hidden factor that very few people talk about: insulin resistance. This is the real cause behind stubborn weight gain, and until you fix it, no diet or exercise program is going to give you lasting results. Now, insulin is a hormone, and like all hormones, it has a job to do. Its primary role is to lower blood sugar by taking the sugar out of your bloodstream and putting it into your cells. When everything works the way it should, insulin is your friend. It helps deliver fuel to your cells, and it keeps your blood sugar under control. But here's the hook. When insulin becomes chronically elevated, your body enters a fat storing mode that you cannot escape from, no matter how much willpower you use. It's like flipping a switch. High insulin tells your body, store fat. Don't burn fat. And that's exactly what happens. What causes insulin to rise? It's not fat, it's not protein, it's carbohydrates and sugar. Every time you eat bread, pasta, cereal, rice, fruit juice, soda, candy, even so-called healthy granola bars, you're pushing insulin higher and higher. Now, imagine doing this day after day, meal after meal, snack after snack. Eventually, your cells become resistant to insulin. It's like someone knocking at your door every 5 minutes. Eventually, you stop answering. That's what your cells do. They stop responding to insulin. But here's the catch: your body doesn't just give up. Instead, it produces more insulin to compensate. Over time, you're left with chronically high insulin levels, and that's where the real problems begin. Think about what this means. With insulin resistance, your body is literally trapped in a state where it cannot access fat for fuel. You may have 50 pounds of stored fat, but your body can't touch it. Instead, it keeps demanding more sugar, more carbs, more quick fixes. That's why people with insulin resistance often feel tired, hungry, and irritable all the time. That's why you crave snacks at night, even after a full dinner. It's not about willpower, it's about hormones. And insulin is the gatekeeper. Here's something most people don't realize: weight gain isn't random. It's strategic. Your body is doing exactly what insulin tells it to do. If insulin is high, you will store fat around your midsection. This is why belly fat is one of the clearest signs of insulin resistance. It's not just extra weight, it's a symptom. That stubborn belly fat is your body's way of saying, I'm overloaded with insulin. I can't keep up. And here's the kicker: as long as insulin remains high, no amount of exercise is going to burn that fat. You could spend hours on a treadmill and the scale barely moves. Why? Because exercise burns glucose first, not fat, if insulin is still elevated. This is why the entire calorie model is flawed. If it were just about calories, then eating 1,200 calories of sugar would give you the same results as 1,200 calories of salmon and broccoli. But we know that's not true. Sugar spikes insulin dramatically, while protein and fat barely move the needle. It's not about how many calories you eat. It's about what those calories do to your hormones. That's the real secret. Now let's talk about the symptoms, because many people don't even realize they have insulin resistance. They just think they're aging, or they have a slow metabolism. But here's what to look for: fatigue after meals, cravings for sweets or carbs, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, frequent urination, constant hunger, belly fat that won't budge, and a need for snacks between meals. Do any of those sound familiar? These are not random annoyances. They're your body's way of waving a red flag, saying insulin is out of balance. Here's where it gets really serious. Insulin resistance is not just about weight. It's at the root of some of the biggest health issues we face today: type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver, dementia, even certain cancers. In fact, many researchers now call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because of its strong link to insulin resistance in the brain. So, when you fix insulin resistance, you're not just improving your waistline, you're protecting your brain, your heart, and your entire future. Now the big question: how do you fix it? This is the part most people want to know. And the good news is, it's not complicated. The first step is lowering insulin. You do this by cutting back on the very foods that spike insulin: sugar, refined carbs, and processed junk foods. The second step is spacing out your meals. Every time you eat, you trigger insulin, even if it's a healthy snack. So, if you're eating 6 times a day, your insulin never gets a chance to drop. That's where intermittent fasting becomes a powerful tool. By simply eating less often, you give your body time to lower insulin, and that's when fat burning finally kicks in. Healthy fats also play a key role. Foods like avocados, olive oil, salmon, nuts, and eggs not only keep you satisfied, but they have little to no impact on insulin. They allow your body to stay in fat-burning mode longer. Combine that with moderate protein and nutrient-dense vegetables, and you create a diet that supports insulin sensitivity rather than fighting against it. And here's a hook that often surprises people. You don't need to exercise harder, you need to eat smarter. Exercise is beneficial, of course, but if you're still spiking insulin with the wrong foods, your workouts won't deliver the results you're hoping for. Fix the diet first, then use exercise as a bonus, not as your primary fat-burning tool. The truth is, once insulin resistance is reversed, the weight starts to come off naturally. Hunger goes down, cravings disappear, energy goes up, and your body finally taps into its fat reserves. You're no longer fighting against yourself, you're working with your hormones, not against them. And that's the real key to sustainable weight loss. So let me circle back to that first question. Why do so many people struggle with their weight despite cutting calories and exercising harder? It's because they're targeting the wrong thing. The issue isn't calories, it's insulin. If you don't address insulin resistance, you'll stay stuck in the cycle of diets that fail. But once you shift your focus to lowering insulin, the entire picture changes. You're no longer trapped. You have the power to lose weight, keep it off, and restore your health from the inside out. When people set out to lose weight or improve their health, the very first thing they often think about is calories. Count your calories, reduce your calories, burn more calories, and somehow that will equal success. But let me challenge that idea for a moment. If calories were truly the key, then how do we explain the millions of people who are eating less and still not losing weight? How do we explain the fatigue, the cravings, the nutrient deficiencies, and the frustration that comes with constant calorie restriction? The truth is, it's not the calories that matter most, it's the nutrients inside those calories. Nutrient density is what drives true health and sustainable weight loss. Without it, you're simply starving your body, not feeding it. Here's the hook: your body isn't counting calories. It doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I need exactly 1800 calories today. What it's looking for is nutrition, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, trace elements, the raw materials it needs to build, repair, and function. When you give it those nutrients, your hunger naturally regulates, your cravings calm down, and your metabolism works the way it was designed. But when you feed it empty calories, your body is left unsatisfied, even if you've eaten a large amount of food. That's why someone can eat a whole bag of chips or a big bowl of pasta and still feel hungry an hour later. The body is saying, you gave me energy, but you didn't give me nutrition. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine two meals. One is 500 calories of soda and a pastry, and the other is 500 calories of salmon with steamed broccoli and a little olive oil. On paper, the calories are identical. But in reality, these meals are worlds apart. The soda and pastry give you sugar, refined flour, and maybe a sprinkle of synthetic vitamins. The salmon and broccoli, on the other hand, deliver complete protein, omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, magnesium, potassium, vitamin C, vitamin K, and dozens of phytonutrients. Which one do you think your body will thrive on? Which one do you think will keep you full longer? And which one will actually repair and support your cells? The body doesn't crave numbers. It craves quality. Now, here's something fascinating about nutrient density. When you eat nutrient-rich foods, you naturally end up eating fewer calories without even trying. Why? Because your body finally feels satisfied. You don't have that nagging hunger that pushes you to snack late at night. You don't feel the need to overeat. When people switch from a low-nutrient diet to a high-nutrient diet, one of the first things they say is, I'm shocked at how little food it takes for me to feel full now. That's because hunger is not just about energy, it's about unmet nutrient needs. One of the biggest problems with the standard modern diet is that it's calorie-rich but nutrient-poor. We've created a food system that's dominated by refined grains, processed sugars, seed oils, and chemical additives. These foods are cheap, convenient, and highly palatable, meaning they're engineered to make you eat more, but they're devoid of real nutrition. That's why you see this paradox in developed countries. People are overweight, yet they're nutrient deficient at the same time. They have plenty of stored energy in the form of fat, but their bodies are starving for minerals like magnesium, potassium, zinc, or vitamins like D and B12. This is the hidden hunger that drives constant cravings. Now let's add another hook. Focusing only on calories can actually make things worse. Imagine someone eating 100 calories a day of processed, low-nutrient foods. They might lose a little weight in the beginning, but over time their metabolism slows, their energy crashes, their hair gets thinner, their skin looks older, and their immune system weakens. Why? Because the body doesn't have the raw materials it needs to maintain itself. You're not just burning fat, you're burning through your reserves of nutrients. And eventually the system breaks down. Compare that to someone who eats nutrient-dense foods: grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, organic eggs, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, nuts, seeds, and healthy fats. These foods are loaded with micronutrients, and they don't spike insulin the way refined carbs do. The result: the person feels satisfied, they have stable energy, their body repairs itself, and they lose weight naturally without the misery of starvation. This is the power of nutrient density. Think about this, your liver alone requires over 500 different chemical reactions just to do its job. Each of those reactions depends on vitamins and minerals like zinc, B vitamins, magnesium, and trace elements. If you're deficient in just a few of these nutrients, the entire system begins to malfunction. Your metabolism slows, detoxification slows, fat burning slows. And yet none of this is captured in the simple idea of counting calories. Calories don't tell you anything about nutrient quality. Here's another perspective. Let's say you're driving a car and the fuel light comes on. You pull into a gas station, but instead of filling up with fuel, you fill the tank with water. You can fill it all the way to the top. The tank looks full, but the car isn't going to run. That's what happens when you fill your body with empty calories. You may feel temporarily full, but you're not giving your cells the fuel they actually need. Nutrient density is the high-octane fuel that keeps the human body running. And here's where it gets even more exciting. When you eat nutrient-dense foods, you activate natural healing mechanisms in the body. Leafy greens flood your cells with potassium, which lowers blood pressure and reduces fatigue. Cruciferous vegetables help your liver detoxify harmful chemicals. Omega-3 fats reduce inflammation and support brain health. Trace minerals from nuts and seeds help stabilize blood sugar. None of this is about calories, it's about chemistry. This is also why many people find that once they switch to nutrient-dense foods, their taste buds begin to change. The hyper-processed foods they once craved suddenly taste artificial, too sweet, or too greasy. Meanwhile, simple foods like spinach, berries, or a ripe avocado taste more flavorful and satisfying. This is your body recalibrating, recognizing that real nutrition feels better than artificial stimulation. So let me ask you this: if your body is constantly searching for nutrients, why would you waste your time chasing calories? Calories are just a measure of energy, not a measure of quality. And energy without nutrition leads to cravings, deficiencies, and disease. But nutrition with energy leads to vitality, strength, and longevity. That's the difference between surviving and thriving. Once you shift your focus from calories to nutrient density, everything about your health begins to change. You stop battling hunger all the time. You stop feeling like weight loss is a punishment. You stop looking at food as numbers on a label and start looking at food as fuel for your cells. And that's when eating becomes effortless. That's when weight loss becomes sustainable. And that's when true health begins. When most people hear the phrase intermittent fasting, the first thought that comes to mind is weight loss. And yes, fasting is a powerful tool for losing weight, especially stubborn belly fat that refuses to budge with traditional dieting. But here's the hook: intermittent fasting is not just about weight. In fact, weight loss is really just the surface benefit. What fasting does underneath, at the cellular level, is far more powerful and far more important. It's a healing process, a repair mechanism, a way for the body to restore itself in ways that no pill, no diet, and no exercise routine can accomplish on their own. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine your kitchen after a big holiday meal. The counters are covered in dirty dishes, the sink is overflowing, pots and pans are everywhere. Now imagine that every time you start to clean, more food keeps arriving, more dishes keep piling up. You never get the chance to catch up, and the mess just gets worse. That's what constant eating does to your body. Every time you eat, even a small snack, you're creating more dishes for your system to clean up. Insulin rises, digestion kicks in, your liver processes nutrients, your pancreas pumps out enzymes. The body is working nonstop, and it never gets the chance to repair or reset. Intermittent fasting is like saying, stop bringing in food for a while, let the kitchen staff clean up, give the body time to catch up. And what happens when you do that is extraordinary. The first thing fasting does is lower insulin. That's huge because insulin is the hormone that locks fat away and blocks fat burning. When you're eating all day long, insulin never really drops, which means your body never gets a chance to burn stored fat. But when you extend the time between meals, insulin finally falls and your body shifts into fat burning mode. That alone is powerful for weight loss. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Once insulin drops and the body isn't dealing with constant food intake, it can switch on a process called autophagy. Autophagy literally means self-eating. Now, that may sound alarming, but it's actually one of the most beneficial processes in the human body. It's your body's way of cleaning house. During autophagy, old, damaged, and malfunctioning proteins and cellular parts are broken down and recycled. Think of it as your cells taking out the trash. When this happens, inflammation decreases, damaged tissues are repaired, and your risk of disease goes down. And here's the key: autophagy does not get activated when you're eating 6 times a day. It gets activated when you fast. This is why intermittent fasting is so powerful for things like brain health. Many people notice sharper focus, better memory, and clearer thinking when they fast. That's because the brain thrives during fasting. Autophagy clears out damaged proteins linked to neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. Ketones, which are produced when your body burns fat during fasting, provide a clean, efficient fuel source for the brain. In fact, Many people report that their most productive, focused hours happen when they're fasting, not when they're eating. Here's another hook: fasting doesn't just help your brain, it also helps your gut. Your digestive system is constantly at work when you're eating. By giving it a break, you reduce inflammation in the gut lining, improve the diversity of your microbiome, and allow your digestive tract to repair itself. That's why many people who practice intermittent fasting see improvements in bloating, indigestion, acid reflux, and even food sensitivities. The gut finally gets time to rest, heal, and reset. Fasting also has a profound impact on hormones beyond insulin. Growth hormone, for example, increases significantly during fasting. Growth hormone is critical for muscle preservation, fat metabolism, skin health, and overall repair. It's one of the key anti-aging hormones, and intermittent fasting naturally stimulates it without the need for injections or medications. At the same time, fasting improves leptin and ghrelin balance, the hormones that control hunger and satiety. That's why, over time, fasting actually makes it easier to eat less without feeling deprived. Your appetite naturally adjusts to a healthier rhythm. Now let's talk about something most people don't expect: fasting's impact on inflammation. Chronic inflammation is at the root of so many modern diseases: heart disease, arthritis, autoimmune conditions, and even cancer. Intermittent fasting reduces inflammatory markers in the body. It lowers oxidative stress. It allows the immune system to function more efficiently. In simple terms, fasting takes the stress off your body so it can focus on healing instead of constantly putting out fires caused by overfeeding. But let's not ignore the real-world struggle many people have. When you first hear fasting, you might think of starvation or going days without food. That's not what intermittent fasting is about. It's simply spacing your meals farther apart, giving your body a longer window without food. For some, that might mean skipping breakfast and eating only lunch and dinner. That's a simple 16-7-8 fasting schedule. For others, it may mean eating one meal a day a few times a week. It's flexible, and the beauty is, once your body adapts, it actually becomes easier. Hunger fades, energy rises, and fasting feels natural, not forced. Think about this: throughout human history, fasting was normal. Our ancestors didn't have access to 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus late-night treats. They ate when food was available, and they went without when it wasn't. Their bodies were designed to thrive in that pattern. It's only in the last few decades that we've created this constant eating cycle where food is available 24/7. And with it, we've created epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease. Intermittent fasting isn't some new fad. It's simply a return to how the body was designed to operate. Here's one more hook that surprises people: fasting makes your body more efficient at using nutrients. When you're constantly eating, nutrients aren't absorbed as effectively because your digestive system is overloaded. But when you fast, your insulin sensitivity improves. That means when you finally do eat, your body absorbs and utilizes those nutrients far better. It's not just about eating less, it's about absorbing more from what you eat. I often tell people fasting is like giving your body the gift of time. Time to burn fat, time to heal, time to repair, time to restore. And here's the fascinating part: fasting works with your biology, not against it. It's not a punishment. It's not deprivation. It's tapping into a built-in system that your body already knows how to use. That's why so many people who try intermittent fasting say, "This feels so natural. Why haven't I been doing this all along?" When you zoom out and look at the big picture, you begin to see that intermittent fasting is not just a tool for weight management, it's a tool for longevity. Studies show fasting can extend lifespan in animals, and in humans it reduces risk factors for chronic disease, protects against cognitive decline, and enhances overall quality of life. It's like giving your body the space to heal and rejuvenate on a daily basis. And here's something practical to remember: fasting isn't just about what you stop doing. It's about what you start doing. You start listening to your body instead of the clock. You start appreciating real hunger instead of confusing it with cravings. You start valuing nutrient-dense meals instead of grazing on snacks. And most importantly, you start living in alignment with your body's natural rhythms instead of fighting against them. If I were to ask you which nutrient most people are deficient in today, chances are you'd say vitamin D, calcium, or maybe even iron. But here's the shocking truth: the mineral that most people are desperately lacking, and the one that has some of the most profound effects on your health, is potassium. And the irony is, potassium is one of the easiest nutrients to get if you know where to look. The problem isn't availability, it's awareness. People don't realize just how much potassium the body needs, how critical it is for energy, for blood pressure, for muscle function, and for overall vitality. And here's the hook: you could be eating a healthy diet and still not even come close to the potassium your body requires. Let's break this down. The average adult needs about 700 milligrams of potassium every single day. Now, to put that into perspective, one banana only has about 400 milligrams. You'd need to eat 12 bananas to hit the daily requirement. And yet, when most people think of potassium, the the banana is the only food that comes to mind. That's why so many people are unknowingly deficient. We've been sold the idea that a banana a day covers it, but the truth is, bananas barely scratch the surface. Your body needs much more, and without it, the effects start to show up in ways that most people never connect to potassium. One of the first signs of low potassium is fatigue. Have you ever wondered why you feel drained even after sleeping a full night, or why your energy crashes in the middle of the day? Potassium plays a key role in generating electrical impulses in your cells, especially in your muscles and nerves. Without enough potassium, your cells can't create the proper energy gradient. It's like trying to run an engine without enough spark. The result is weakness, exhaustion, and that sluggish feeling you just can't shake. People often assume it's stress, or lack of caffeine, or just getting older. In reality, it's often a simple mineral deficiency. Now let's talk about blood pressure. High blood pressure is one of the most common health problems worldwide, and yet the conversation almost always focuses on sodium. Doctors say, cut back on salt, reduce sodium, watch your blood pressure improve. But here's the hook. The real issue isn't just too much sodium, it's not enough potassium. Sodium and potassium work like two sides of a seesaw. Sodium retains fluid, potassium releases it. Sodium contracts, potassium relaxes. If you have too much sodium and too little potassium, the balance tips and blood pressure goes up. But if you increase potassium-rich foods, you restore balance, the arteries relax, excess fluid leaves the body, and blood pressure comes down naturally. This is why people who switch to a potassium-rich diet often notice their blood pressure improving without medication. It's not magic, it's physiology. Potassium helps relax the smooth muscles in your arteries, reduces strain on your heart, and improves circulation. And here's something even more fascinating. Potassium doesn't just lower blood pressure, it protects your arteries from damage. When blood vessels are constantly under tension from high sodium and low potassium, they become stiff, inflamed, and prone to plaque buildup. But when potassium is sufficient, the vessels stay flexible, resilient, and far less likely to develop blockages. That means less risk of stroke, less risk of heart attack, and better cardiovascular health overall. But potassium isn't just about energy and blood pressure. It also plays a huge role in muscle health. If you've ever experienced cramps in your legs, especially at night, that's one of the most common signs of low potassium. Potassium is required for muscle contraction and relaxation. Without enough, the signals between your nerves and muscles become erratic, leading to spasms, twitching, and painful cramps. And let's not forget the heart is a muscle too. Low potassium increases the risk of arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats that can be dangerous if left unchecked. This is why potassium isn't optional. It's absolutely essential. Another overlooked role of potassium is blood sugar stability. Potassium helps your cells absorb glucose more efficiently by working with insulin. When potassium levels are low, your cells don't respond as well to insulin, and this can lead to higher blood sugar levels, more cravings, and eventually insulin resistance. This is why many people with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes are also potassium deficient. They're trapped in a cycle where low potassium worsens insulin resistance, which then worsens potassium loss, since high insulin levels push potassium out of the cells. It becomes a vicious cycle that only breaks when potassium is restored. Now here's the really interesting part. Potassium doesn't come from pills very well. Supplementing potassium in large amounts can be dangerous if not monitored, because too much all at once can stress the heart. The best way to get potassium is from whole foods. And this is where nutrient density comes back into the conversation. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, and beet greens are some of the richest sources of potassium, with far more than bananas. Avocados are another excellent source, packing nearly 1,000 milligrams in just one fruit. Salmon, mushrooms, zucchini, and even squash are loaded with it. When you build your meals around these nutrient-dense foods, you don't have to worry about hitting your potassium needs. You'll get there naturally. Here's another hook that shocks many people. One of the reasons people struggle with salt cravings is actually low potassium. The body is trying to correct the imbalance between sodium and potassium. So when you reach for salty snacks, your body isn't really asking for more sodium. It's signaling that potassium is missing. Once you start eating potassium-rich foods, those salt cravings often disappear on their own. The body is incredibly intelligent. It knows what it needs. It just doesn't speak in words. It speaks in symptoms. Potassium also has a profound impact on stress and mood. This mineral directly affects how your adrenal glands function, and these glands regulate cortisol, the stress hormone. When potassium is low, the adrenals become overactive, pumping out more stress hormones, which leads to anxiety, irritability, and poor sleep. It's no coincidence that people who increase potassium intake often report feeling calmer, sleeping better, and handling stress with greater ease. It's not a psychological trick. It's biochemical balance being restored. Think about this, the majority of adults are getting less than half of the potassium they need daily. That means millions of people are walking around tired, stressed, craving junk food, dealing with high blood pressure, and struggling with muscle cramps, all because of a simple mineral deficiency. And yet, the solution is so straightforward. Fill your plate with potassium-rich foods. Replace processed carbs with vegetables. Add avocados to your meals. Enjoy salmon. Load up on leafy greens. Within weeks, many of these so-called mystery symptoms begin to fade. So let me ask you a question. If there were a single mineral that could give you more energy, stabilize your blood pressure, relax your muscles, improve your mood, reduce your cravings, and protect your heart, would you want more of it? Of course you would. That mineral is potassium, and the good news is your body is ready to thrive the moment it gets what it's been missing. For decades, we've been told that fat is the enemy. Avoid fat if you want to stay healthy. Low-fat diets are the key to a healthy heart. Fat makes you fat. Those were the headlines, the guidelines, and the marketing slogans that shaped the way an entire generation ate. But here's the hook: the science was wrong. Not only is fat not the enemy, it's actually one of the most essential nutrients for your body, especially for your brain. And the truth is, without enough healthy fats, your brain cannot function at its best. Let's put this in perspective. Your brain is nearly 60% fat. That means more than half of the organ that runs your thoughts, your emotions, your memory, your creativity, and your ability to focus is literally built from fat. Now think about that for a moment. If you deprive your body of fat, if you go on a low-fat diet, if you replace natural fats with processed carbohydrates, what do you think happens to your brain? It begins to suffer. Concentration declines, memory fades, mood becomes unstable, and over time, your risk for neurodegenerative conditions increases dramatically. This is why so many people who switch from low-fat diets to healthy high-fat, low-carb diets often report a mental clarity they've never experienced before. It's as if a fog lifts from their mind. They have more focus, more creativity, and even more emotional stability. And it's not a placebo effect, it's biology. The brain needs fat as raw material to build and repair cell membranes, to create hormones, to insulate nerve fibers, and to produce neurotransmitters that regulate mood. Without it, the entire system struggles. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful fuels for the brain: ketones. Ketones are produced when your body burns fat instead of sugar for energy. And here's the fascinating part: your brain actually prefers ketones over glucose. Glucose is like a cheap, dirty fuel that burns quickly and leaves behind a lot of smoke in the form of oxidative stress. Ketones, on the other hand, are a clean, efficient fuel that burns smoothly and powerfully, providing long-lasting energy with less inflammation. This is one reason why people on ketogenic diets often feel mentally sharper. Their brains are literally running on a superior fuel source. Here's a hook that surprises many people. Conditions like Alzheimer's disease are now being referred to by some researchers as type 3 diabetes. Why? Because the brains of those affected can no longer properly utilize glucose, but ketones bypass that problem. They can fuel the brain even when glucose metabolism is impaired. That means a high-fat, low-carb diet which naturally produces ketones could be protective against cognitive decline. This isn't just about avoiding memory loss, it's about optimizing your brain for the long term. Now let's get specific about the types of fats that matter. Not all fats are created equal. On one hand, you have harmful fats: trans fats, hydrogenated oils, and processed seed oils like soybean, corn, and canola. These are inflammatory, damaging to cell membranes, and harmful to the heart and brain. These are the fats you want to avoid. On the other hand, you have healthy fats: omega-3 fatty acids from fish, monounsaturated fats from olive oil and avocados, saturated fats from grass-fed butter and coconut oil. These fats nourish the brain, reduce inflammation, and support hormone production. They are the fats your body is literally designed to thrive on. Let's zoom in on omega-3 fatty acids because these are critical. DHA, one of the main types of omega-3, is a building block of the brain. In fact, it makes up about 40% of the polyunsaturated fats in the brain. Without DHA, communication between brain cells becomes less efficient. That means slower thinking, weaker memory, and even mood instability. Omega-3 has also reduced inflammation in the brain, which is one of the drivers of depression, anxiety, and neurodegeneration. People who consume more omega-3s consistently show better cognitive function, lower rates of depression, and even reduced risk of dementia. Monounsaturated fats, like those found in olive oil and avocados, are another key piece of the puzzle. These fats improve blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients more efficiently. They also protect against oxidative stress, the rusting process that damages brain cells over time. That's why diets rich in olive oil, like the Mediterranean diet, are consistently linked with lower rates of cognitive decline. And saturated fats, long demonized, actually have important roles as well. They provide stability for cell membranes, fuel for the brain, and raw material for certain hormones. Coconut oil in particular has medium-chain triglycerides, SMCTs, that convert quickly into ketones, giving the brain an instant source of energy. So here's the question: if fat is this important, why were we told to avoid it for so long? The answer lies in a decades-old misunderstanding of cholesterol and heart disease. Researchers wrongly assumed that eating fat and cholesterol cause clogged arteries. What we now know is that the real culprits are sugar, refined carbohydrates, and processed oils that trigger inflammation. The low-fat movement didn't just fail to protect people, it actually made things worse. People replaced fats with refined carbs and sugar, leading to skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, and dementia. The very thing we were told to avoid, healthy fats, turned out to be the nutrient we needed most. Here's another powerful hook. Did you know your mood is heavily influenced by fat? Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate happiness, motivation, and calmness, depend on fatty acids and cholesterol for their production and function. Low-fat diets have been strongly linked to higher rates of depression and anxiety. Why? Because when you strip the body of fat, you strip the brain of the very building blocks it needs to keep you emotionally balanced. Adding healthy fats back into the diet is often like flipping a switch. Mood improves, stress tolerance increases, and emotional stability returns. But the benefits don't stop there. Fats also help absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Without fat in the diet, these critical nutrients can't be absorbed properly. That means no matter how many vegetables you eat, if you're not pairing them with healthy fats, you're missing out on the full nutritional benefit. That drizzle of olive oil on your salad or that slice of avocado with your greens isn't just for flavor. It's the delivery system that makes those vitamins available to your body. Now, let me share something that always grabs attention. When people start adding healthy fats into their diet, one of the first things they notice is satiety. They're not hungry all the time. They're not craving snacks every couple of hours. Why? Because fat is the most satiating macronutrient. It slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and keeps hunger hormones in check. This is a huge shift for people who are used to feeling like food controls them. Suddenly, they feel in control of their appetite, and weight loss becomes easier, not harder. Here's another angle to consider. Your hormones, estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, progesterone, are all made from cholesterol and fat. When fat intake is too low, hormone production suffers. This can lead to low libido, fatigue, poor stress tolerance, and difficulty building or maintaining muscle. Healthy fats restore the raw materials needed for hormone balance, which in turn affects every system of your body, from energy to mood to reproductive health. So let's put this together. When you eat healthy fats, you're not just fueling your body, you're fueling your brain, stabilizing your mood, protecting against disease, absorbing critical nutrients, balancing hormones, and controlling appetite. You're literally building a stronger, sharper, more resilient brain. And when you deprive yourself of fat, you're starving the very organ that makes you who you are. If I were to ask you what really determines how well you age, you might think of your heart, your bones, maybe even your memory. But here's the hook: one of the strongest predictors of longevity and quality of life isn't just your heart or your brain, it's your muscle mass. Muscle is far more than something that makes you look strong or toned. It's a living, active tissue that drives your metabolism, stabilizes your joints, balances your hormones, and even protects you from disease. And the truth is, after the age of 50, most people begin losing muscle at a rapid pace. But the shocking part is that this decline is not inevitable. Muscle loss after 50 is absolutely preventable if you understand how the body works and what it really needs. Let's start with the big problem. By the time the average person reaches their 70s, they've already lost about 30% of their muscle mass. This condition has a name: sarcopenia. And sarcopenia doesn't just mean weaker arms or thinner legs. It means reduced mobility, higher risk of falls, slower recovery from illness, weaker immune function, and a dramatic drop in energy. In fact, many of the so-called aging problems people assume are unavoidable, the fatigue, the frailty, the lack of independence, are actually symptoms of muscle loss. The real tragedy is that this doesn't have to happen. Muscle is an incredibly adaptive tissue. Even at 60, 70, or 80 years old, the body still responds to the right stimulus. The problem is that most people aren't giving it the right stimulus. Instead of challenging their muscles with resistance, they stick to low-intensity activity. Instead of fueling their bodies with enough protein, they eat diets high in refined carbs and low in nutrients. Instead of feeding their mitochondria, the powerhouses of muscle cells, they deprive them of the nutrients and hormones required to thrive. And as a result, the muscle breakdown accelerates, leaving people weaker year after year. Here's the good news: you can stop this process and, in many cases, reverse it. The body is designed to adapt. If you start resistance training, whether it's with weights, bands, or even body weight exercises, your muscles respond. They grow stronger, denser, and more functional. And it doesn't take hours in the gym. Studies show that even just 2 sessions of strength training per week can significantly increase muscle mass in older adults. That's because muscle responds more to intensity than duration. A focused, challenging set of squats, push-ups, or resistance band pulls can send the signal your body needs. Build more muscle. Stay strong, but exercise alone isn't enough. The other critical piece is nutrition. Here's a hook that surprises a lot of people. Most adults over 50 are eating nowhere near enough protein to support their muscles. Protein is the raw material for muscle repair and growth, and without it, your body simply can't maintain the tissue. After 50, the body becomes less efficient at using protein, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. That means you need more high-quality protein, not less, to get the same muscle-building effect you had when you were younger. This is why I often recommend focusing on nutrient-dense proteins like eggs, fish, grass-fed beef, or plant-based options like hemp seeds, chia, or pumpkin seeds for those who prefer non-animal sources. These proteins provide not only amino acids, but also additional nutrients like B vitamins, zinc, and iron, which are all critical for muscle metabolism. And here's another secret: spacing your protein throughout the day, rather than eating it all in one meal, keeps your muscles consistently supplied with the building blocks they need. Now let's talk about hormones, because they play a massive role in muscle preservation. Testosterone, growth hormone, and even estrogen influence how well your muscles respond to both exercise and protein. As we age, these hormones naturally decline, which contributes to muscle loss. But the decline is not the main cause. Inactivity and poor nutrition are. In fact, research shows that older adults who stay active, eat well, and get good sleep maintain much healthier hormone levels than those who don't. You don't have to accept low hormones as your fate. Supporting your body with nutrient-dense foods, quality sleep, and regular strength training keeps these hormones working for you, not against you. And here's another hook: muscle isn't just about strength, it's also one of the biggest regulators of your metabolism. Think about this. Your muscles are the primary site where glucose gets used for energy. When muscle mass declines, your ability to handle sugar declines. That means higher blood sugar, more fat storage, and greater risk of insulin resistance. But when you build or maintain muscle, you actually improve your blood sugar control, lower your risk of diabetes, and keep your metabolism humming. In other words, muscle is like your metabolic engine. The more muscle you have, the more efficiently your body runs. Let's not forget the role muscle plays in protecting your bones. Most people worry about osteoporosis as they age, but muscle is your real defense system. When you train your muscles, you're also placing stress on your bones, which signals them to stay strong and dense. Weak muscles mean weak bones, but strong muscles mean a strong skeletal system. This is why strength training is one of the most effective ways to prevent fractures and maintain mobility later in life. Another fascinating fact is that muscle is a reservoir for amino acids that support your immune system. When you get sick or injured, your body pulls amino acids from your muscles to make immune cells and repair tissues. If your muscle reserves are low, your ability to recover is compromised. This is why people with more muscle mass often heal faster, bounce back from illness more easily, and maintain resilience well into their later years. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how quickly some older adults seem to decline after a fall or surgery? Often, it's not the injury itself that limits them. It's the sudden loss of mobility and the rapid muscle wasting that follows. Inactivity accelerates sarcopenia, and without intervention, it becomes a downward spiral. But if that person had more muscle mass to begin with, and if they continue to train during recovery, their resilience is dramatically higher. Muscle is insurance for your future. It's not just about looking fit. It's about having the physical reserve to handle life's challenges. And here's the beauty of it: it's never too late to start. Studies have shown that even people in their 80s and 90s can gain muscle with strength training. The body doesn't lose its ability to adapt. The real question is whether or not you're giving it the opportunity. The excuses of being too old or too weak don't hold up to the evidence. Every rep you do, every nutrient-dense meal you eat, every night of quality sleep you get, they all add up to protecting your muscle, and by extension, your independence and vitality. So here's the takeaway: muscle loss after 50 is not a sentence, it's a choice. You can either let it happen by neglecting your body, or you can take charge with resistance training, nutrient-rich protein, healthy fats, and supportive lifestyle habits. The difference between struggling with fatigue and weakness versus thriving with energy and strength comes down to whether you treat your muscle as a priority or as an afterthought. And the truth is, the best time to start protecting your muscle was 20 years ago. The next best time is today.